Hey guys, it's P.E. Gilbert, your blogger, writing consultant, and the author to the upcoming fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter. And today, we are honoured to have an interview with author Angelika Koch. Angelika has written the YA fantasy book, Pernicious, True Evil. Here is the interview. Enjoy. So, let's get to know a bit about you, Angelika. Where are you from, and has this place influenced your writings?
I am a military brat. So I'm not really from anywhere. Military brat is what they call military kids in the States. So I was born in California, but I only lived there for like maybe a year and a half before I moved to Alaska. And I just kept moving throughout my life. So it's influenced my writing in the way of I've seen so many different places across the US. My mother's from Germany, her side is from Germany. So I traveled over there a lot. And so my traveling actually began from a very, very early age. And it allowed me to see and experience things that not a lot of people are able to see and experience. And that's how it's influenced my writing, because I can take those experiences and write about them, but in more of a fantasy form.
You most certainly have. According to your Instagram account, you like to go traveling, as you've already said. You've been to a lot of places, according to your feed. How have these places influenced your writings, and do any of the things you've seen appear in your writings, in particular in your story?
Yes, they absolutely do. So, for example, in the book Pernicious, True Evil, when Astra lands in the desert, that's actually Arizona. So I take the things that I've seen in Arizona and I describe them in a little bit of a different way. But when I was traveling through Arizona, it was a fantasy land to me. It was gorgeous. Just everything that I saw looked like it was from a different planet. So I took the things that I saw and how I would describe that in my mind, and I wrote it down as if it's happening in a different location. So yeah, that's you see the little things like that, little tidbits. When she's walking up the mountain with Voshin, that's actually Mount Zion area. It just different locations from that I've actually traveled to and that I've seen and experienced. And Earth is gorgeous. Earth is a magical planet, and that's why I wanted to describe it like that.
You most certainly do. You've made Arizona seem like a holiday destination now. That was great. It was great when I read it and saw all that Astra went through. In a recent IG post, an Instagram post, and it's likely that you're going to hear this a few times, anyone would think that I have, been researching you quite in depth by the number of times the Instagram posts are going to come up. In one of your posts, you talk about how society judges you and how you judge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your concluding message in that particular post was truly inspiring, at least in my opinion. But how did the sense of being judged affect you as you were writing Pernicious?
I think everyone is their worst judge. So when I first started writing Pernicious, I was my worst judge. I absolutely was. And it took me 8 years to write it. So there was a lot of growth in between there. But I realized as I was writing it, why am I becoming my worst enemy? Why am I judging myself so harshly? Why don't I just allow myself to be the original version of me and write what I want to write? So whenever I was writing that post, I was thinking about all the times I judged myself. I was thinking about all the times I wore a mask, all the times I tried to be someone who I'm not. And I ended up doing myself a disservice by doing that. And now I realize, you know what? Someone's going to judge you no matter what. Just be yourself.
That's very powerful. That's very true as well. I'm glad you went back to your true self. Your novel, as we've already said, is called Pernicious True Evil. It is a dark YA fantasy novel. What three books or films in the YA genre have had the biggest influence or inspiration, have been the biggest inspiration for you?
Well, they're not quite in the YA genre. But my
Okay.
biggest inspirations, um, The Boy and His Dog at the Edge of the Woods, at the End of the World, sorry. A Boy and His Dog at the End of the World, I found to be such a mystical and magical book. Though it was written in 2019, It did influence my final edits just because I was so inspired about how the author was able to describe Scotland after everyone was wiped off the earth. I thought that was an incredible job that they did. And then the two movies would have to be Chappie and District 9. And I liked those two movies so much because they gave a different perspective. District 9 gave a perspective of who is the true evil. They made humans out to be so absolutely awful, and these aliens are actually the victims. It was paralleling racism. It paralleled so many different immigration. That was another big one. Paralleled so many different issues that I thought was astounding and needed to be said. And then you have Chappie. Chappie is another fantastic movie, and it makes you question what is consciousness, and it makes you think so much deeper. A lot of people hated that movie. I loved it. I thought it was deep. I loved the fact that you sympathize with the robot, that you start to see it as being, you know what, this has a soul. And I think oftentimes we as humans will look at something that is not us and almost dehumanize them, or something that we fear, and dehumanize even our own people, our own species, because we're afraid of them. And I thought, Chappie influenced my writing in that way because I wanted to parallel those same themes in my book.
Well, you do it very well, I must say. I'll leave it though to the viewers here to read your book and see what I mean by that, though, rather than spoil it for them. What was the spark that made you write Pernicious? And from the moment you've already half answered this question, but from the moment you gained the idea to write Pernicious to the moment it was finished, i.e. ready for publication, how long did that take?
8 years.
8 years.
A long time. Yes.
Listen, fine, as long as it takes. You write very well. Your metaphors are fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So what sparked it? Many different things sparked it, but I really think just going through the things I went through, and I was being chased by my own demons, my own inner demons. I was, hardened by grief. I was depressed for a while. I had come out of a horrible relationship shortly before starting writing this book, and the person was so abusive that they tried to kill me. So I had a ton of PTSD from that, and I was just haunted. Yeah, it was really bad. But I had a ton of PTSD from that, and I would have these horrible nightmares of being chased by demons, and I would have these horrible nightmares of this monster coming back to finish the job, to continue to abuse me. And so when I wrote this book, I think a lot of the things that influenced my writing was the pain I went through that, and then the deaths that happened with regards to family members dying, and the grief I felt from that, and the depression I was going through. It was just a really hard time, and I wanted to pull myself out of that place. 8 years ago I was in a very dark place, but I wanted to bring hope. I wanted to bring hope not just for readers, but for myself, because I needed that hope, and I didn't have that hope at the time. So by the time I was finished 8 years later, I found hope. I found happiness, but it took a long time. It took years to be able to find it again after someone destroyed absolutely everything about me.
Wow, that is very deep. I certainly had no idea about that. Thank you for sharing it. And I'm really happy you have found this happiness. You've come to this place that you are now, and that you wrote Pernicious, on a personal level and for yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
A while ago, I wrote a couple of blog posts on how to create an engaging main character. What 3 characteristics does your main character, Astra, have that make her engaging?
I think Astra, what makes her engaging is that a lot of people feel weak inside when they're actually really strong. And you see this in the character. Astra feels weak. She doesn't realize how strong she is. And you see that towards the end. Actually, you know what? She's not this weak person that needs to be helped all the time to survive. Mm-hmm. She can do it on her own. So I think that's one thing that's very engaging, because a lot of us feel that way when we're going through life. Another thing is the grief she's going through. She lost her mother. Her mother is dead. And she's not really able to process that at first. She's just completely drowning in her own depression. And a lot of us feel that way. We're all going to encounter death at some point. We're all going to encounter someone that we absolutely love just being torn away from us and feeling just like it's unjust, especially if they're not dying at an old age where we're kind of expecting it. If they're dying at a younger age, we're like, no. And we're angry. We're angry at whatever God we worship. We're angry at ourselves. We're angry at what we did and what we didn't do. And Astra's dealing with that through this book. And so I think a lot of people can relate to that. And then another thing is just the general sense of hopelessness and finding hope even when there doesn't seem to be any hope. And I think that a lot of people also go through that, where we're like, this situation is grim. We're never going to get out of it, whatever it may be, whether it be dealing with depression or struggling with addiction or whatever it is that we're dealing with. And we see this outcome that we want to have, and we're not sure how to get to it. So that journey that she takes throughout there is the journey that we all take through life. And we all end up, if we find the strength within ourselves, or we should find the strength within ourselves and defeat our demons.
I want to say, at first, that's a brilliant answer. And I think you're absolutely spot on. That is exactly how I felt when reading Astra, I must say. Well done to you for that. This is kind of, this is almost, you've already answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Why do you think readers will root for her? Again, I think you've answered that pretty well. You can stress it again if you want, or you can say to me, move on.
Well, I mean, we all are Astra. Whether you don't have to be a woman in a desert area chasing demons to know that you are Astra. No matter who you are, you don't have to have the same personality as Astra, because what Astra is going through is what we all are going through, whether we're going through it in the past, in the present, or in the future. But we will all go through that. And I think this book, in its own way, provides hope, because in the beginning, Astra is being chased by demons. But in the end, I don't want to give it away, but she is able to find the strength within herself to do what needs to be done.
I won't say any more. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, that's for sure.
I'm sure I've already spoiled half the book.
I actually, something, I actually don't agree with you there. Not that I want to be contrarian, because I actually think the journey is so fantastic and so empowering. You feel that as you go along. That in and of itself is worth reading. She is not a Mary Sue. She's not brilliant for the sake of brilliant's sake. She has to learn to survive in a very harsh and cruel world in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think you've half answered this, but what would you like readers to learn or realize from the story?
Hope. That no matter how dark the situation is, no matter what we're going through, there is hope. And you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. And even if we feel like we're not okay, just keep moving forward. Don't give up, because the moment that you give up is the moment that you fail yourself, and you don't deserve that. We all don't deserve that. And I think also that Astra has something in her that's good. That's a gift to the world. Though in this book, that gift is not necessarily to Earth. She does have something that's good for humanity. And I think we all do have that too. We really do. We all have something to give to humanity. And by giving up, we're giving up that gift that we can give to ourselves and to the world.
That's a really lovely message. I like that a lot. On a meta level, what does Astra's journey mean to you?
I would have to say the same thing. Astra, for me, she encourages me. As weird as that sounds, she encourages me because I feel like I can relate to her so much. I put parts of myself in her, the way that I felt. And on a meta level, I would have to say she helps me to not want to give up, to keep moving forward, to find my mission, to find my purpose, which I believe I have found it, but to continue moving forward in that purpose.
I'll continue moving forward with that purpose. Please do. And moving away a bit from your story and more to yourself as a person, as a writer, this is one of my favorite questions. If you could go back in time and meet a younger Angelica Koch, what would you say to her about the writing process?
Surrender.
Surrender.
Everything. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid to, to just put it all in. Don't be afraid that you're putting too much content in. Don't be afraid to be too graphic or too brutal or too honest. Just be raw and pour it all out, and then let the reader decide.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. What is your writing kryptonite?
Now, what do you mean by that? Because that can go two ways. It could go
I'd actually like to hear both your ways then.
Okay. So my writing kryptonite is whenever I'm literally reading other people's writings, it's diving into a fantasy world. And I can't seem to put down a good book. Like if it's well written, if it's descriptive, that is my writing kryptonite. Over my other writing kryptonite of when I can't stop thinking about writing and what I need to do, like almost like an impulsive need to write, is either when I'm going through something difficult or when I'm in a beautiful area and I think, oh my God, like this is magical and I'm experiencing something so wonderful that I want to write about it. So nature becomes my kryptonite.
Great. This is lovely kryptonite to have. What have you found harder, writing Pernicious or marketing it?
Well, those are two different animals. So
Absolutely, which is why I'm asking you, which one have you found harder?
I don't think either is less difficult because both are equally difficult in their own way. So you have marketing where you have to figure out keywords, promotions, how to pitch to different people, finding the strength within yourself to overcome your anxieties, and figuring out the business aspect of things. However, when you're writing the book, you have to take one sentence, and if it's not a good sentence, you have to rewrite that sentence 50 times. And then if you're trying to describe like a flower, and it's obviously like a flower from Earth, you want to re-describe it in a way that it becomes something more mystical and magical. Because for me, I think people live on Earth and they don't see how magical it is. So I want to take things that I've seen on Earth and make it magical. So people, they pass by a rose and they're like, wait, that was in the book, or a daisy, and that was in the book. And they start to see something that was twisted and created into something completely different, but it still is from Earth. Everything is from Earth because, like I said before, Earth is magical.
Okay, that's a good answer. How has writing changed you as a person? And did publishing your book and, the great news you had only, was it the last few days, this weekend, how has that made a difference to your character? I mean, when I say your character, I mean you as a person, not Astra.
I have gained more confidence within myself. I've realized that even if you get 10 no's, you will still get a yes. You just have to keep searching. That closed doors are not meant for you, and that's okay. Don't be hurt about it. Don't be upset about it. I mean, you can feel, a little like, oh, but that's okay because that was never meant for you. But those other doors that are open, that are just waiting for you to walk through, those are meant for you. And I think that the just writing the book and accomplishing that and moving forward and finding those open doors and realizing that not every door is closed. It might take you a little bit of time to find it. And by a little bit of time, it could take you years, days, months, it doesn't matter. But there are doors out there that are open just for you, and only you can walk through those because it is meant for you.
I like that a lot. It's very fantasy-esque, that. I can picture a door with your name above it. Only you can go through it. Are you writing another book at present? And if so, could you give us a sneak peek about its plot, please?
So I am writing a second book right now.
Really?
I'm writing Pernicious, the second book in the series. And so people right now are expecting the book to move forward with Astra's journey. But Pernicious Book 2 isn't about Astra's journey continuing. That's the third book. The second book is actually the prologue. It explains everything. It explains the past. It explains why the world is the way it is. It explains the character Lamia. You get to know Zafira more. Isla, who was thrown in there at the very end, that was not by random. That had a purpose. So you get to know Isla. You get to know every character that you didn't think that you really knew, and you kind of briefly skimmed through and was like, okay, another character next. That character has a purpose, and you get to know all of those. And it makes book 3 and book 1 make complete sense. It fills those holes that were left open.
Any idea as to when it may or may not be ready to read?
My plan is to have it done by December and out by either the end of December or beginning of January, but most likely end of December.
Well, I'll wait impatiently, along with, I hope, many other people, for Pernicious Part 2, the prologue. Lastly, Angelica, outside of writing, what do you like to do?
Well, clearly travel. I love
Yeah.
taking pictures and exploring. My big thing is I like to go to places that there aren't a lot of tourists. I know this sounds ridiculous, but if I see a ton of tourists, I get disappointed. Or if I'm in the middle of nature, I want to be completely alone. And if I see a human, I'm like, oh, well, there's a human there. Let me find something a little more in the middle of nowhere. So I love traveling and photography, but I also love getting to know new people and experiencing small towns and kind of trying to avoid the tourist areas, because I feel like you really can truly appreciate culture when you appreciate it away from what's been commercialized.
Great. You know what you like to do. Keep doing it. And that concludes our interview with author Angelika Koch, I'm afraid. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Like, comment, and hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the interview, and if you've read Angelika's book, write that in a comment too. Also, I have left links in the description below to Angelika's book and to her Instagram account. She is a brilliant photographer. Check out some of her pictures, they are stunning. Moreover, come the 2nd of July, my debut fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter, is going to be released. I've left a link in the description below for that as well. Check it out. Otherwise, until next time, keep well. Once again, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button, and then you will be the first to receive more awesome content from my channel, and I hope to see you again soon.